I'm Markia.
Want to hear something scary?
The beloved undead. Miriam loved her job at the funeral home to the point where it was almost an obsession. She was an embalmer. While some might get queasy at the sight of death, Miriam saw her job as an art form. She felt the most at ease when draining blood and removing organs out of a corpse. She'd hum and sing while replacing that inert lifeblood with chemicals, carefully and artfully filling out the body with padding. Afterwards, she'd skillfully reanimate their lifeless faces with makeup. She felt it was her duty to look after the deceased, and they deserved to be treated lovingly, even in death. One night, after lovingly embalming a 90-year-old grandmother, a ski accident victim, Miriam got a call. A John Doe was coming in, meaning someone who couldn't be identified at the time of death. He'd mysteriously drowned in a swamp and was missing half of his face. Excited by the prospect of a facial reconstruction, Miriam waited impatiently for her next client to arrive. As the John Doe was wheeled in and placed on the medical table, Miriam gasped. Even though he was horribly disfigured, she could identify him. Abdi Mufu had been her first love since grade school, and they dated throughout college. After they broke up, they lost touch, and the last she'd heard, Abdi had become an environmental biologist, saving the world one swampy grassland at a time. Sadness overcame Miriam as she realized she wouldn't be able to reconnect with Abdi ever again. She would be able to make him presentable for his funeral service, though. As she started to drain his body of blood, she noticed puncture marks behind his neck. She had never seen anything like that before and checked his medical chart. No puncture wound was recorded. Miriam ran her fingers across the lesion when she felt a sharp pain. Something had cut her. She grabbed her tweezers and a magnifying glass to closely examine the body and gasped as she pulled out a razor that had been lodged deep into his neck. Removing it caused the wound to gush, covering Miriam's face right into her open mouth. Shocked, she reflexively swallowed. Running to the sink, she washed the blood and fluids off. Looking at the razor under a microscope, she saw that the blood didn't congeal like normal human blood. In fact, all of Abdi's organs seemed to still be a little too warm, according to his time of death. After she took a break to calm herself, Miriam continued with her beloved work. As Miriam was preparing to dispose of Abdi's liver, something strange and frightening came over her, a ravenous hunger. Despite her horror, her body moved of its own accord as she bit and tore into the liver. As the blood and meat slid down her throat, pleasure overtook her initial disgust. She wanted more. Possessed with the urge to consume, Miriam opened one of the cold lockers, where a woman was waiting to be embalmed in the morning. Groaning loudly, she bit into the corpse, gorging on it. There was suddenly a creaking sound, and she stopped, congealed blood and viscera dripping down her chin. Some sense returned to her. She couldn't be caught like this. She spun around, and there was Abdi, standing behind her, alive. Or not. His eyes were fully bloodshot, his pallor gray, his chest cavity open. He couldn't speak due to the missing jaw, but he shambled toward her and tenderly pushed a hair off her face. Instinctively, she offered him a piece of flesh from the body, which he gladly sucked on. They were finally reunited. Miriam grabbed Abdi and bit into his face, tearing the last of his lip off. It was the perfect kiss. Then, holding hands, they shambled into the lobby where her longtime assistant, Penny, was diligently typing up medical notes. As Penny turned and saw Abdi and Miriam, she was frozen in fear. Their bloodshot eyes, the bloody maws. She tried to run, but tripped in her haste, falling to the floor. Her last sight ever was watching her boss and reunited lover eat her alive.